In this video, I will describe how I wrote a Google Cloud function that can be invoked from a quick capture webhook. The purpose of this function is to use the location of an observation submitted from quick capture, so we can use that location to define in which country that particular event has happened. So this is my project, and my project is pointing to this feature service which has an incidence layer. In the incidence layer, one of the fields is the field country. This is what my Google Cloud function is populating. So how do you do this? So essentially, I started using notebooks, which is a new feature in ArcGIS. It's actually in beta. You can see here I have a country lookup notebook. This is using the ArcGIS API for Python to basically query a feature layer based on the provided XY coordinates. So the Python script looks like this. I'm importing a handful of libraries here. You can see that at the very top, I actually added a hard-coded string just to do tests. So this looks exactly as the payload that Quick Capture sends when a new incident is added. And I just went and worked on top of this hard-coded thing to get my code ready. So I get this string loaded into a JSON object. Then I load a feature layer for the countries of the world, which I found in ArcGIS. It's kind of free, is there for anyone to use. And I have this layer. Once I have this polygon layer, I build an input point object with the geometry that my payload is passing. And with that, I build a spatial filter, which I use against my polygon layer. So you see in the polygon layer, query, and then I pass the geometry filter, which is basically the point in polygon filter that I created. And once I have that, I basically get the whatever feature I find. I get the attribute name, which is the name of the country. And then I get from the payload, again, I go to project info service URL. This is the feature layer of the incidents. And then I basically query based on object ID, I get the feature that I want to update. And then I call update features to basically add in the country attribute whatever value I found before for that country. And that's basically what the Python script does. Now, the cool thing is that I use notebooks to author the Python script because this has good, debug tools and such. But then I can pretty much copy all of this and paste it into Google Cloud functions. So this is the Google Cloud console that I have. I created an account and I set it up very quickly. And here, if I go to the dashboard, you will see that they have this thing called Cloud Functions. So in Cloud Functions, you can create a new function and then allocate, you can give it a name. So I can say country lookup, and then you can say, okay, allocate some memory to it. This is basically an HTTP handler, so it's really like a custom web service. And then you can say, I want to write this in, say, Python 3.7. So once you have this, let's call this country lookup. This is the name of the function that is going to be executed when my HTTP handler is going to be invoked. And so I'm going to add that in. And you can see that this is the request object. This represents the payload that comes from Quick Capture. And here is where you are going to copy and paste the code. So I already have the code here, the country lookup code. So you need to do basically a couple of things. First of all, you need to go in here and load ArcGIS, and then you can do additional imports from here. So I'm going to import all of this. And this is basically coming from my notebook, except for this guy, which is part of Google Cloud. And then You are going to copy this, which is essentially what I had in the notebook. There might be some very tiny changes, but very, really very tiny. So then you get this in place with the proper tabs. You know that Python is picky. And you can already see the code. I mean, it's pretty simple. I described it before. And this is basically the code. I'm going to, in a second, I'm going to have this be deployed, and it will become an endpoint that I can invoke. So I'm going to say OK, and then I call create. This is creating the function in Google Cloud, and this typically takes a couple of minutes because it's deploying the function. And as soon as it's done, I will have an address that I can use for my webhook. So you can see that for authentication, this you need to set explicitly. It allows unauthenticated calls. Otherwise, well, it gets a little bit complicated. So anyone that has my address can technically invoke the web service that I'm building. Well, in the meantime, while this is deploying, I'm going to come here into webhooks. I'm going to create a new webhook, and I'm going to call this country lookup. The select the feature layer will be incidents, and then I'm going to send basically everything. I don't need this, so I can remove it if I want. I don't need that, but I'm going to leave it just in case. And then the webhook URL, I think, should be ready now. So it's still deploying. For the record, it never deployed actually. I had to bump up the memory allocation a little bit before it could actually work. But anyways, I have it running now, which means that I think we are good to go. So I'm going to now open this guy and capture data, and then do a vehicle accident, and then send. And if everything is good, this should have executed. So let's have a look at the logs. So it's 420. Country lookup, yeah. Country lookup. So now let's go back to content, or the query that I had somewhere. There you go, query. I query again. And nah, this didn't work. Did I save this? Oh, I need to turn it on, save. I think we should be good now. So update, capture, safety, send. Cool. And now we query. Didn't do it. So it seems like it came in 1621. This is good. Finished. Okay. Oh, maybe, yeah, okay. The feature was created. Oh, there you go. Haha. The feature was created and it took a while to execute before I had the country, but it actually did it. Aha, Yahoo. So this is pretty cool because, here, I mean, with Python, I mean, you can do so many things. So this is cool stuff. And also, if you are wondering why the country was Australia, if Ismail is in the US, it's only because in Quick Capture, I have actually, I'm simulating the location using a file that I was given, Jonathan gave me. So my integrated provider is actually an EMEA file. So that's, and this is from Australia. So that's That's the reason. That's so I can move when I'm testing quick capture. That's all. So no tricks here, no smoke and mirrors.